keyed and we were trying to wait a little. But we're going to start because it's 15 minutes over the time that we should be starting. Like I said before, my name is Lewis, and I'm the Director of Financial Aid here at SPH. Some of you I've met. So I'm just going to go over the financial aid process here at SPH and just give you guys some advice, some ideas, or what to look for as you attend here. So here at SPH, the financial aid process, the first thing that you need to do is definitely complete the FAFSA form, which is in most schools. That's what you need to do. In order for us to see whether or not you're qualified for financial aid, you must complete that form. Without the form, we cannot process any financial aid. And I can't even determine whether you'll be eligible for anything unless I see that form. So that form is usually online. We try to keep it online only. I don't even think they give out papers anymore. So if you look on the website, everything is there, that information of completing the FAFSA, what year you need to complete, what you need to complete, that information is on our website. And secondly, school code. Our school code is 004765. We are using the same school code as the Graduate Center, as SPH, and as the School of Journalism, as Macaulay. All those, I believe 4 schools are using the same school code. So when you go in and you need to complete your FAFSA form, you need to use 004765. As well as when you do your entrance in MPN, they will ask you what institution. You must pick Graduate Center, which is a 004765. Okay? Another thing that you need to be aware of, and I've seen so many students, especially our first-time student, when they start, I strongly advise for you to be familiar with self-service. So you need to, because I know when you get accepted, you receive an email from admission stating to go in and claim your account for CUNY First. That is really, really important because every single information that I send out, or if I need additional documents, or if I need any additional information from you guys, it's through CUNY First. So if, say, I need a documentation such as citizenship, or I need you to complete your entrance interview, it's through CUNY First. You will be able to see it when you click on financial aid, or you will be able to see it on the first page of your CUNY First account. I believe it's on the right side when you sign in. It says holds, checklist, all that information is there. So as soon as you sign in, you should be able to view anything if I need anything from you. So it would say checklist, and when you click on it, it would tell you exactly what is needed from you. And sometimes there's even a link to if you need to complete a form, or if you need to go to a different website, there's even a link of where to go on that checklist. So it is very important throughout the semester that you look in your CUNY First to see if anything is needed, if anything is coming up, dates and all that will be on your CUNY First, okay? Even though after we send you the checklist, or we put the checklist on your account, an email is sent to you stating that you need to look at your CUNY First account. It's not going to tell you what it is. It's just telling you you need to look at your CUNY First account, okay? So be aware of that. Also, the award letter. So when you apply for financial aid or the checklist is cleared and everything is done, you do receive something that is called the award letter from us. It's just basically telling you what you've been awarded. So even if you're not planning on taking out loans, if you've been awarded a scholarship or anything like that, it will be on that award letter, okay? So when you receive the award letter, especially for loans, it's in an offer status. We do not just put loans on a student's account. We do offer you a certain amount, and it's really up to you on the amount that you need to take out. We usually offer the maximum that you're eligible for. Usually the maximum is not all that you need, or it's too much. And it's really up to the student to decide whether or not they want to take the full amount or they want to decrease the amount, okay? The amount that's usually there is usually the maximum that you're eligible for. If you feel that you need more money, such as if you're say your rent is higher, as long as you give us documentation such as a lease, we'll be able to adjust that. But documentation is needed in order for us to do that, okay? So now after you accept the loan and we process the loan, there's two things that are needed. An insurance counseling. The insurance counseling is basically for you to complete so you could understand that you are taking out a student loan and this is what your rights and responsibilities are. It tells you what to expect. It tells you the interest rate. It tells you what you need to do, during that period of time. After you take out a loan, if you decide to take more money that you need, such as for books, living expenses, rent, after your tuition is paid, you're going to get a refund. I always advise the student, if you are getting a refund, the best way is to set up a direct deposit. If you don't, it will take longer for you to get the refund, and also we'll be mailing the refund to you. And usually the refund is mailed to your address, your home address. So you might be living in Manhattan, but your home address, say, is in Queens or Long Island or in New Jersey. We'll mail it to that address. So make sure that you sign up for direct deposit. It's faster and it's easier, okay? Okay, so what what financial aid do we offer here at SPH? We do offer scholarships. Scholarships are usually awarded at time of admissions. So basically the admissions office awards scholarship. They look at your application, and if you meet certain criteria, and they award you that scholarship. And also it's in a first come, first serve, because we do have a limited amount of scholarships available. So that's so whoever applied first and meet that criteria, those are the people that receive the scholarship. There's no additional application for you to complete for that scholarship. It's automatically given to the students that meet certain criteria, okay? Like I said, it's really through admissions, even though I do get the list of students that receive the scholarship to post to their account, but it is awarded by admissions. We do have assistantships. Assistantships is all for DPH students, which is doctorate students. What the assistantship entails is you get a small stipend, and also you get tuition reimbursement, tuition waivers. And by doing that, you get to work with a professor or institute doing research and sometimes even teaching. So that's what the assistantship is all about, and it's only for doctorate students. So if you guys are deciding any doctorate students, or if you guys are graduating and eventually will be doctorate students, that's something that you should really look into. They pay for your tuition, you get a small stipend, and you get to do research with the different professors and institute that we have here, okay? And that one is limited as well. So if anybody is gonna become a doctorate student and that's something you're interested in, you should look into it early on. And also the last award that we offer are the loans. And they are federal loans, and it's through direct loans, which is through the Department of Education. We do not offer any loans with banks. It's all through the Department of Education. So you're not borrowing from, say, Sallie Mae. You're not borrowing from Nelnet. You're borrowing from the federal government. So the different loans that we offer, like I said, the federal loans are funded by the federal government, so you don't have to worry about, just like other loans, you don't have to worry about repayment, because if you are currently in school, they will work with you. If you're unemployed, they will work with you. Another loan that I've seen that some of our students have taken out is private loans. Unless you are an international student or a certificate student, I really caution you taking a private loan, because of the fact that it's not guaranteed by the federal government, and the interest rate could be anywhere from 5% to 15%. There is no cap, unlike the federal student loans. So unless you're, say, out-of-state student or international student or a certificate students, I really don't see a reason for any of our students to be taking out private loans. And sometimes I do get application of private loans, and I usually call the students and ask them why, and it's because they didn't even know that they were qualified for federal loans. So I really caution people taking that out because it's not guaranteed by the federal government. So just be aware of that. So the loans that we do offer, one is the unsubsidized loan. That's the first loan we offer a student. It's for eligible graduate and professional students, such as doctorate students, and you do not need to have any need. So if you guys remember when you were in undergrad, for you to receive a Stafford loan or a subsidized loan, you had to have need, meaning that, if your parents made too much money, you were not eligible. But for this loan, since you guys are graduate students or doctorate students, they don't look at need. They just see if you're qualified, if you meet the criteria, and that's how you get your money, okay? So the unsubsidized is determined, the amount is determined by us here at SPH. We take a lot of things. We look at your cost of attendance. I'm going to go over what cost of attendance is and all that for us to award you the unsubsidized loan. So it's not just us making up numbers. There's a lot that goes into it to determine what you guys are eligible for, okay? And one thing that you guys have to remember with the unsubsidized loan, the interest does accrue while you're in school. So meaning that the interest is growing while you're in school. So just keep that in mind as well. We also have the Graduate Plus loan. The Graduate Plus loan, after we award you with the maximum unsubsidized loan, if you have any need, meaning that if you need more money, then a Graduate Plus loan is offered to you. Just remember, the Graduate Plus loan does look at students, basically, they look at your credit. So they do run your credit when you apply for that loan, okay? Even though it's a federal loan and it's guaranteed by the federal loan, they do consider your credit for it. And sometimes some students will not qualify for it because of their credit. So just remember that as well. And you must be taking 6 credits for all student loans. Anyone have any questions thus far? Yes. No, it's yearly. So every year you have to complete the FAFSA, and every year we award you, okay? So if we offer you, say, $20,000, the $20,000 is for fall and spring. Say you decide that you want to go for the summer, and just remember, for any semester that you want to take out a loan, you must be taking 6 credits, even the summer. So say you decide that you want to go for the summer, you would have to tell me. Then that $20,000, I would add to it, because now you're going for 3 semesters, and it will be divided by 3. Does that make sense? Any more questions? Yes? Okay, the summer class, summer starts the new school year. So when you complete the form, summer starts the year. So if you do need to take money out for the summer, you still have time. So the money that you take out for this year doesn't go for next summer, okay? So the summer starts the year. Yes? So when would you fill out that next class? It's going to be available October of 2017 for next year. So, but just remember, if you are taking summer, it's not automatically done like fall and spring. You do need to tell me. The summer application is actually online, so you would have to complete that and email it to us or bring it in to us, because summer is not done like we do the fall and spring, where we automatically package you. You would have to tell us that you want the summer. And like I said before, every semester you need 6 credits for you to get any loans. Okay, even the summer, even though the summer is short, it's still still need 6 credits. Yes. I'm sorry, just a little bit louder. Just like, there's what? No, we don't have. Do we have winter? I think we do have winter. We do have winter, but winter is actually part of spring. Yes. Mohit, no? Part of fall? Oh, okay. So if you take, say, 6 credits, right, Esther, we charge you for the spring semester. Oh, by the way, that's our bursar. She'll be up to have any questions that you guys may have. Yes. Oh, what? No, I mean, you could take, it's really up to you on what you want to take doing. When I say it's part of it's just financial aid purposes. That's it. So if you take 1 class in the winter and 1 class in the spring, that's fine. So for the courses, what you're asking in terms of course, so that's part of that. Right. Yeah, what class you take, though, it does not matter to me. So, I mean, and I don't think they're offering any extensive, amount of classes during the winter, because, it's very limited. Yes. Loan limit. Most of the time, I'll say 90% of the time, it's for your undergrad. Okay, 90% of the time when you receive a note like that, it's for your undergrad. So then, I received a note like that. Graduate. So that's the right there. Does that mean I wouldn't get? No, it's just most of the time, like I said, it's usually because there is a limit. I believe it's $23,000 for your undergrad. Okay, so. It's because you're close to that amount for your undergrad. Now you're not undergrad anymore. And for a grad, a grad it's $138,500. Okay, I barely see that. I've seen it, but I barely see it. Okay. So usually, because we get that, it doesn't stop anything. It's just for me, and to just look to make sure that you're not at that $138,000. But it's not stopping you from getting financial aid. It's just for my information and just for you. If you wanna, just to give you a hello, you might be close, but yeah. But it's not stopping anything. And I usually go and look at the student, and usually it's out within like a couple of weeks. If I check the students and everything is okay, you won't be seeing it. So the eligibility for you to receive loans. So we went over the 3 credits. We went over that you had to be in a degree-seeking, major. So certificates are not eligible. Those eligibility that's up there is basically the federal eligibility. So you have, like I said, you have to be enrolled in an eligible institution. You have to be registered for at least 6 credits. So it's really not a SPH rule. It's actually a federal rule. You must be a U.S. citizen, national, or eligible non-citizen, meaning that you have a green card. You have to have a valid Social Security number. All those information are what's required. We do look at that when you complete your FAFSA, and that's how we determine whether or not you're eligible for financial aid. Okay? So how much can I borrow? I mean, we spoke about this. When we talk about cost of attendance, and I said I was going to come back to cost of attendance. So the school actually determined the amount that you could borrow by looking at your cost of attendance. there's also a limit on unsubsidized loans that you could borrow for the year. So I believe you had a question about, is it for the 2 years? No, we do it yearly. So for a normal graduate student, $20,500 on an unsubsidized loan is the maximum. But since we are the School of Public Health, as of this year, we've been certified by the federal government for us to award students more than $20,500 because you guys are considered as being part of the health profession. Okay, so they're looking at it like, because doctors get to take a certain amount over what normal students, graduate students get to, so we're part of that as well. Even though ours is a little bit less than a doctor, MD, basically, but we do get more money. Okay, so as of this year, we've been certified, and our students are actually receiving, instead of the $20,500, we are at $33,000. Okay, so now for someone that's going summer, fall, spring, which is considered 12 months, that student is eligible for $37,000. Okay, but most of our students are eligible for $33,000. So this is how we calculate how much you can borrow. So the maximum loan that you could borrow is determined by the cost of attendance, okay? So this is what cost of attendance is. So when you complete out the FAFSA, we look at your information. So we look at, are you an in-state student or out-of-state student? Are you living at your parents' house, or are you living in a dorm, or are you renting? We look at that. We look at where you live for transportation. We look at books. We look at personal care. We look at housing. So cost of attendance is not what you will pay, but it's basically what it will cost you to attend a year at SPH, what it will cost you transportation-wise and all that. So it's not what you're paying to the bursar, but we're saying, okay, for the students to attend here, taking 6 credits or taking 9 credits or taking 12 credits, this is what they will need for transportation, for living costs and all that. So this is how we determine how much money to give you. So a student that is living at home will get less money than a student that is living away or have their own apartment. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's how we determine what to give the student. So if you're living with your parents, we're thinking you're not paying rent. So we're not gonna put that into your cost of attendance. Okay, so this is how we calculate financial aid. So how would you receive the financial aid? So now school is starting on Friday. I get a lot of emails saying, "Oh my God, it's showing on my bursar's account that my loans and my tuition is not paid." So what we do is, actually the bursar could actually see if you've taken out a loan. Okay, so your classes won't be dropped if you take out loans. Nothing will happen. We do not disperse the money until you start school, until you start classes. So that's why the loans will be dispersed on Monday. So anyone that has completed their process for financial aid on Monday, the loan will hit your account, meaning that the bursar will get her money, she'll be happy, and if there's any refund coming to you, we'll process that, okay? So that's how you get your money. And like we spoke before, we have direct deposit. After the bursar gets her part, then refund is sent to you, the student, in forms of direct deposit or a check. Any questions on that? So this is the process for SPH financial aid. I just want to give you, that's like the last part, I just want to give you a little, I guess, information on borrowing money. Because I find that some of the questions that students that are graduating and students that are currently here have certain questions about their financial aid or about the money that they borrowed, about the borrowing process. So I just want to give you guys a heads up so you'll be ahead of the class by the time you guys start. So before taking out a loan, like I said before, just make sure that you know what type of loan you're taking out, whether or not it's federal, whether or not it's private. Like I said, I strongly tell students do not take out a private loan unless you really have to, unless you're not eligible and you cannot get you cannot get a federal loan, okay? You have to understand the loan, the benefits, and your responsibilities. And I see a lot of students, we offer them $31,000 and they take the $31,000, they don't need it. And at the end, when we send them the check for $10,000, they come and return it. So just make sure that you know exactly how much money you're taking out and what the interest rate is. So just make sure you know that, okay? Make sure you compare the loans, make sure you compare the interest rate and see what the interest rate is. Just remember, just keep a record on the year you took out the loan, the amount, and what the interest rate is. Every July 1st, the interest rate changes. So you just want to keep information on that, okay? So I spoke about interest rates. Like I said, every July 1st, the interest rate changes. So you have to be aware of it. For federal loans, the interest rate is capped, so meaning that it can't go beyond 8.25, okay, for the unsubsidized. Whereas the private loan, they could charge you according to your credit up to whatever they want to. So that's something you have to be aware of. So this year, as of July 1st, for the unsubsidized loan, the interest rate is 6%, and for the Graduate Plus loan is 7%. This is the highest I've seen it in a while. Okay, I've never seen it at 6%. It's the highest I've seen it in a while. There's also fees. So now, if you borrow, say $20,500, and it's $10,250 per semester, you will probably see less than that on your account because there is a processing fee that the federal government charges. So if you take out $10,250, it'll be less than that. It'll be $10,141, I believe, something like that. That will go into your account because they do charge fees. So just remember that. So if you want to take out, $10,000, I would advise you to take a little bit more because of the fees. Just keep track of your loans, like I said before. Just make sure you know the loan amount that was disbursed, the current balance of your loans, the school you attended, the contact person, if you have the information that you need. Believe it or not, sometimes you may receive an amount, you return the check, meaning that, oh, I don't need it. If it's not processed correctly by the school, you will still owe that money. So if you're returning a check, make sure you take a copy of the check, you make a copy, and you send it, and you know who you gave it to. So if you return a check and it's not processed, you still, even though you return the check and you never got the money, if we don't process it correctly, you will still owe that money. So make sure you keep track on that. Any return funds that you do not use, make sure you keep track on that, okay? No, your loan holders. Some of the students that attended other schools that are not federal lenders and that they took out with Sallie Mae or they took it out with Citibank, just make sure that you know that's who you took out the loans with. Okay, so you know who to contact. Just know about your grace period. You guys know about the grace period, 6 months after you graduate or fall below. But if you've used it already, then you're not eligible for it. So if you've used your grace period, you're done. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. So if you say you attended the fall semester and you decide to take the spring off, within a month you will owe money because you've used your grace period. So that's something you have to keep in mind, okay? Yes. So if you've used that 6 months grace period already, it's automatic. But just remember, because you did take out a federal loan, if you know that's going to happen, make sure you call the lender or the servicer ASAP because they will work with you. It's either they put you in a forbearance or they put you in a deferment, whatever you fit under. So the main thing I always tell my students is that you need to contact your servicer. I won't be able to do anything because I'm not the lender, I'm not the servicer, but they will work with you, especially for your federal loans. They always work with you. Whether they decrease your payment, they put you in deferment, they put you in forbearance, they will definitely work with you, okay? So there's something called the loan servicer that the students are not aware of. Even though you borrow from the federal government, they do contract out different services to handle their student loans, meaning that they can't handle all the schools, all the students that borrow. So they contract it out with different people. So you might get an email from Great Lakes, even though you borrowed from the federal government, it's Great Lakes is their servicer, or Nelnet is their servicer, okay? You did borrow from the federal government, but they're using a company to service their loan, to get the payments and things like that. So those are the things that you have to be aware of. So you might not receive an email from, say, Department of Education, but you might receive an email from Great Lakes, okay? Makes sense? So a good website to know is www.nslds.ed.gov. It has all your loan information from every single school you ever borrowed from. Okay, just remember that. So it has all your information with every school, the date, the amount that was disbursed, all that information will be on that website. And that's also the information when, like it says that you borrowed, you're close to your loan amount. That's where I go and look to see where you borrowed in the amount. So you could view it as well, okay? And that is all. Any questions? Yes.
So the award information is for that.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get your net check, you just get your full refund at the beginning of the
Per semester, okay? Per semester. Because, I mean, we don't know if you're attending in the spring semester. So it's per semester, okay? Any more questions? Yes. Yes, 5th floor. Yes, any more questions? And this is my information here. Email is always great. I do strongly advise email. And please just remember to always check your CUNY first, because everything is sent through your CUNY first. So you'll be it's instant. As soon as I put something on your account, you will be able to view it. And as soon as you do something on your account, I'm able to view it. So just please make sure that you look into your CUNY first account. And now, the person that takes your money. This is our bursar. Miss Esther. Can you say your last name? I see I can't say it that way. So she'll be able to answer your questions about bursar. I'm the good guy. I give the money and she takes it.
To my defense, I only take what belongs to the school. Everything else go back to you guys. Good evening. My name is Esther Cortorreal. I am the bursar here at School of Public Health, and I am here to assist you to help you pay what is due to us. I'm not taking anything, not a penny more than what you owe. And I'm quite sure that all of you will be happy to pay for it, for the service that you will be getting and for the education that you're getting, which you're going to use later on in life. So it's more of a payment, it's an investment. So I know you'll be happy to give it the money to me when you come. So for show of hands, all of you are taking loans? Or is any area that I should cover besides the loans? Good. I see some shaking of heads, so okay, I'll cover the rest. So, okay, let me go to, I'm gonna bring up a very useful tool that we have, and it's very accessible to you because it's on the website. Okay, I'm legally blind, so I'm trying to make this work, and this is a tiny thing in here. There it goes. This is our website, so I hope that all of you are very familiar with it, okay? So in order to find all this information that Ms. Lewis has shared with you and that I'm going to share with you, this is your point of reference. Always visit here, go to Student Services, and go to student finances or bursar. And here, you will be able to find information about tuition. This is what we do and how we can help you out to make your payments. So you will find information about tuition. We have the current tables with the current fees. We have different ones, and it's broken down different ways so that you can understand. So right now, it tells you what the rate is if you're in state or out of state, if you're full-time or if you're going part-time, what will be if you go just for maintenance of matriculation. If you're a doctoral student, you might be aware there's different levels and what the rates will be in each level. So this is a lot of information here that you can get and be informed ahead of how much it will cost you to attend the school. There's also a list of mandatory fees, and that tells you about your technology, consolidated fees, the university students Senate fee, and the activity fees, and what the total is if you're full-time or part-time, and which ones are covered you have to pay during the summer, and which ones is through spring and fall. Also, there's other general fees that are applied to your account based on the services that is done. Some of the fees that you need to be aware that they will apply to your account after the term starts. So I'm quite sure that all of you know classes starts on Friday. This is the very first official day of class, although you might not physically have to be in a class on Friday. That is the first day of class. And the hope that is not news for you guys is that your payment is due before then. And today is the 23rd, so you have until tomorrow to pay your bill, guys. So I hope this is not a wake-up call, but by tomorrow your bill has to be paid. And if you're getting financial aid and everything has been processed, then you will be able to see in the Student Center that you have anticipated aid showing in your account. If everything is complete and there's no notes from financial aid stated in the communication, you should be able to see on your account anticipated aid. A piece of information that is very important for those of you who are taking financial aid is that compare the amount that you are getting as an anticipated aid with the balance. Because it will say you have a balance due, let's say, just because it's late, $3,000, I'm going to round it up, and you have anticipated aid $2,700. So meaning you're short $300, and you still owe a balance after that disbursement happened the first day of class. So that's something that you need to be aware that the payment is due before the school of class. So now classes start, and you have a balance of $300, and that will cause that your account will incur a late fee because you did not pay ahead of time. Many students get confused, but what happened? I have financial aid, it should be covered. Well, remember when Ms. Lewis was explaining, make sure that you apply the fees. Maybe you took $3,000 because you owe $3,000, but now the fee took those $300, and now you owe the school $300 because we only got disbursed $2,700. So that's a piece of information that you need to be aware so that when you are calculating for your financial aid, take those things into consideration, and then don't be surprised or be penalized for still owing the balance thinking that everything has been taken care of. Student Center is your best friend. Check it all the time. You use it anyways for registration, you use it for payments, you want to make sure that you're going to get your refund and on time. Let me show you this little piece of information for those who are going to be getting refund. That is very important. In the same site under Bursar, we also have information about refunds. And so now you are getting a little bit of extra money for transportation or whatever other costs that you was calculated when you take that extra funds. It's very important that you look at the refund policy. So we have, let me go back to show you actually the schedule. We have a schedule of refunds. So for instance, you register for 9 credits and you decide that, something happened and you won't have as much time, probably a project at work came up and you won't be available to actually take 9 credits. I'm just gonna drop a course because it's just not, it won't work for my schedule. Please make sure that you look at the deadlines and the schedule for dropping the course. If you not going to be liable for that course, make sure you drop it before the first day of class. Meaning you have until tomorrow to drop if you don't want to be charged for this course. After the first day of class, there is a percentage of the liability that you're responsible for. So if you drop on August 21st, the very first day of class, you are responsible for 25% of that course. So if you paid in full already and you drop that course, we're going to take 25% of that. And we're only going to return or refund back 75% of the tuition. Fees are not reimbursed, are non-refundable. So that's information that you need to be aware, because then you said, well, I was expecting that money back. Please be informed, look at the schedule. I try to break down the dates for you to be very aware what falls into what and what percentage really it's owed to you back. The same way, if you haven't paid, remember you're gonna have penalties for late payments. And if you dropped, you decide, you know what, I didn't pay and I'm actually not going to attend. Don't assume that the class is gonna be canceled just because you didn't show up. You're still responsible for the courses and for the charges of these courses. So depending on when you drop, that liability still have a percentage that will affect and you will be responsible for it. But again, we're not want to worry about that, because I know you're all going to be taken care of on time and you want to know about your refund. Like Ms. Lewis said, we recommend to do direct deposit for your refunds. It's safer, it's faster for you. The way it's safer is because we don't have to put a check in the mail. And if for any reason, when you first registered, when you applied, you were living either out of state or whatever it is, a different address than what you have right now currently, but you completely forgot that that was the address that you put back when you applied, let's say 2 years ago, and finally went through when you decided to come. Now you don't even know what address your check is gonna go, and we're gonna go with the address that is in the system. So that's why we always recommend Student Center is your best friend, and you need to check at all times that information is accurate. You wanna make sure that your mailing address is accurate. We also wanna make sure that you look at if you're in-state or out-of-state. Many students assume that they're in-state because they have an in-state address, but at some point, again, when you apply, your address was not an in-state, and that's what we're going for. Unless you show us that you are an in-state resident and you provide proof, you're gonna be charged with out-of-state. And don't assume that we're gonna change. If we don't receive that information, that's not gonna change. So we always recommend for you to check your account, check your information, make sure that everything is accurate. And if you see that there's something that doesn't make sense, please contact us. And let's take care of it early rather than later, assuming that something is going to happen. Okay? So for refunds, what we recommend is direct deposit. And here is a quick reference guide of how to enroll your account. If you add your account into student services, you just have to add your bank account, and then it gives you step-by-step what to do. Once you add the account, you're not done yet. You're just telling us, yes, you have a bank account. If you want to make a payment, you can make the payment with that bank account. But for enrollment, you have to make sure that you tell, once you're done adding, that it tells you you have added the account. Now you want to tell them that you want to enroll into direct deposit. So now it gives us access for us to send the money to that bank account. And like she said, it gets processed on Monday. We review all the refunds, make sure that are you entitled to that refund? And if everything goes well, by Friday, that money is in your bank account. But if you decide to do by check, on Friday, we're going to be printing a check, and the check will be mailed out either Friday night or Monday. So now it's going to take an extra week for you to get your check. Again, please review your account, make sure that if you are expected a refund, and if you have not received it after the time that it says that you should have received it, please contact us. It could be an issue with the address. The check could be lost in the mail, and we want to approach it as soon as possible to avoid any fraud. For those of you that are not taking financial aid, again, there are different payment options, and those are also listed in here. So we have the online payments, and those ones, it gives you step-by-step how to make the payment online. Please, please, please disable your pop-up blockers. Many students are trying to make a payment, and it just says it's not going anywhere. Unfortunately, make sure that the pop-up blocker is disabled. It will open up a new window, and it will take you to our vendor, which is Nelnet, to process your payment. If you have any issues with that, please, again, let us know, but it should be a very easy process. to do it. We also offer, and there is also in the website, there is a tutorial video there for you to get instructions on how to make the payments. We do take checks and money orders. We do not accept cash. We cannot take payments over the phone. So if you feel like you want to make a payment by check or money order, just stop by our window, or you can mail it to our offices. Please make sure you add your student ID in every payment that you send so that we can post that payment into your account. It's for verification purposes. We do also offer payment plans. And just the same way, when you go to the Student Center, it gives you an option to enroll or manage your payment plan. You click in there, make sure that your pop-up blocker is disabled, opens up a new window, and you can set up your payment plan. Payment plans gives you an option to use the credit card. For online payments, one-time payments, it's only your bank account. So payment plans give you the flexibility of using your credit card if you don't have that amount here available. However, payment plans do have an enrollment fee. If you use your bank account for payment plans, it's $40. If you use your credit card, it's $95. It's a one-time enrollment fee per term. So if you pay this term, next term again, if you want to use the payment plan, you have to pay for enrollment at the same time. The earlier you do it, the more installments you get. We get up to 6 installments. So if by the end of, when we're getting closer to this term and you want to enroll for spring term and you're already registered for a spring term, you can actually enroll into payment plan right away, and it will give you 6 installments to make your payments, which will spread out the amount that you will owe. So it's a very useful tool. It's accessible to you guys, but if the earlier you do it, the more flexibility you have. We also have third-party payments. So some students use either their employer will make payments for them, or their vouchers, via vouchers through their union. Just make sure, just like the payment, it's due before the first day of class. We need to provide this documentation before the first day of class, or you will be penalized. Pretty much you're going to have late fees. And if you are getting tuition waivers, it's the same way. Please submit it to us. I know that many students work at night in the office. We are available Wednesdays late until 6:30. But if you're not able to make it or bring those vouchers right away, you can email them to bursar@sph.cuny.edu and then bring us the original. But at least send us an electronic copy so that we know that this is coming and avoid late fees on your account. So there's also our contact information is there, our phone number, and the email. A very important piece of advice, use your SPH email to contact us, especially we're dealing with your account information. You don't want us just to give your information to anyone. So we want to make sure that we verify that we're really talking to you, that we're actually giving information to the students. So we need you to contact us from your student account and give us your student ID. We need it for verification purposes. So if you send me an email from your personal account and I don't send you anything, don't be upset. I need to verify it's for your own good. I'm trying to make sure that I'm not giving your information to somebody else. So please, please activate your account, use your school account, and please provide us your student ID when you contact us so that we make sure that we're talking to you. Any questions? Go ahead. Sure. Let's go back at it.
But also, I sent you guys an email, but I was also concerned that I think it was last night or this morning that I paid, and when I was charged with the overpay, so with the one that is lower rate.
Okay. So.
Make sure that it's not for me.
Right. So the tables that we're looking at, okay, so like I said, we have different breakdowns of the tables. So if we look at this one, for instance, I don't know if you can see it very well there. But this one actually tells you the tuition and fee charges. So this one, perhaps, is the one that you're looking that has a higher amount. Because the higher amount, this one is including the fees, the mandatory fees. So that's what there is. And if you go back to the other one, let's say for the master's and certificate students, That one gives you just what it will cost you for tuition. So this is what the tuition is per credit. One credit is $440 for graduate students. And as you go up, if you're taking 6 credits, it will be $2640. But then you add, being a part-time, you add the 118, and that gives you the amount of the first table. So that's where you see the difference. Some students sometimes just want to know what the tuition itself it is and how much it is in total. Some people don't care how much is just tuition. I want to see how much I owe in total. And that's why I have different tables in there. But thank you for paying attention to that, and I wanted to make sure that you're getting the correct information. So when you look into your account activities, you see a breakdown. So you'll see for the graduate rate, you'll see just the tuition, and then you see the other amounts listed in there, because it gives you a breakdown of all the fees, and then it gives you the total at the end, which is in the first table.
So wherever it says that when I activate my payment, whatever it asks me to pay this time, it is refund.
Right, and the good thing about the payment plan is that when you're enrolled into a payment plan, it gives you, right now during the enrollment period, it gives you to give them an estimate. So right now, let's say, I just want to do 6 credits, and you will give them that estimate of this is how much it's going to cost me, or what I think it is. But then later on, you decide to add a course, or you decide to drop a course, and you already set up your payment plan. So during the enrollment period, you're just going to tell them, okay, this is how much I think I'm going to owe, because I don't know if I'm going to add or drop a course. Once the add and drop period ends, the system automatically will adjust your balance based on your actual balance on CUNY first. So right now, you just tell me, okay, I'm going to enroll for 6 credits. This is how much I'll probably later on I'm going to add a course. But when you did the payment plan, you only did it for the cost of 6, not for the cost of 9. So what's going to happen with that extra charge? Well, the payment plan is going to adjust, and it adjusts every week, so that we make sure we're capturing all the charges. So when the installments are broken down, they can get adjusted and they can be evenly broken for installments. Yes.
Regarding the payment plan, let's say if you enrolled online and doing like a direct deposit could you come into the Bursar and pay it like via check before that deadline, or would it automatically like deduct even if I
So what we recommend, there's a specific period when it does. So it tells you it's on the 5th of every month, depending on when you started it. So it's the 5th of every month until November, the payment plan. If you decide, you know what, I'm not going to wait until November to finish paying it, and I have the money, let me just go ahead of time, make sure you don't do it like on the 4th, because it's already scheduled to do it the next day. So it might do it. But if you decide to, you also can manage and stop the agreement once you have paid the amount. So what we recommend is make the payment. If you can come to the Bursar, you can make the payment online itself, balance it out. Remember, it adjusts every week. So if you decide to make a payment, let's say now at the end of the month, and the next payment is due on the 5th, you make the payment, now it's 0 balance. So before it charges you, it's going to do an adjustment, and it's not going to pull out anything because you don't owe anything. So that's the beauty of doing the adjustments every week, because it will adjust either if it's higher or if it's less, it's going to charge you less and even out the installments based on your actual balance. So you can go ahead and make your payment. If you have the payment plan, you can still go ahead and make the payment and settle your account before that.
does it have to be completely settled to come into Bursar, or does it like could you I don't know, let's say I come across the lotto tonight, right?
Yes.
And I want
Let's all hope that.
let's say I wanted to pay, if I have, I don't know, remaining balance of like $3,000 on my account. So I'm like, well, I'm going to spend 2, but I'll save the last payment for like later. Could I come to your office and do that?
Yes, you can make the payment online. You can come and bring your old $3,000 and you have it on the payment plan. You want to pay $2,000, you want to leave that $1,000 to be continuing the payment plan. So if your original installments for those for that balance that you have for the $3,000, let's say it was $1,000 each, and you have 2 more installments left, now that $1,000 is going to be $500 each for the next 2 installments. So it's just going to adjust your installment based on your actual balance. Okay? Yes? There was a recent increase this year. It has been for this new year, it has been an increase. It doesn't automatically happen every year. There's a board resolution that has to be submitted. It just happened now. We don't know when the next one will happen, but normally we notify students and when we're expecting, and you're going to see it on CUNY sites if there is expecting any more tuition increases. But we just had one recently, so I don't know when the next one will be, but not necessarily happens every year. Any other questions? Yes. Say that one more time? That will be from the registrar's office. Do you have to prove that you're still attending school? So if that will be like a verification of attendance? Right. Did I say it right? Yeah. And that you have to request it to the registrar's office. Any other questions? Go ahead. Any other questions? Okay, so last but not least, Mohit, he's going to be Aurora. Did I pronounce it right? Or close enough? Welcome, and I hope you have a great school year.
You know, it's funny, we've been the School of Public Health as it currently stands this is our second semester now? Second year, right? Yeah. So learn each other's names, people. I was gonna say that I figured out why we don't have a very large turnout today. I think it's because of the Powerball. People are probably out buying tickets. So as an incentive for the people who are here, yes, we have a pool going, and yeah, you may not see any of us in a few weeks. Yeah, but as an incentive to everybody who is here, I'm going to tell you that I've made a mistake in my presentation somewhere, and whoever catches that mistake will win $20. So pay attention. Okay, I'm lying. I haven't made a mistake. I'm just trying to get you to pay attention. So actually, let's come back a little bit. My name is Mohit Arora. I run the IT department here. The credentials in front of my name simply mean that I have a master's degree, and I have something called a Pmp Credential. It's a project management professional credential, meaning that I studied from a book and gave an exam and passed that exam and got that credential. But it also means that I've been doing project management for a few years, so I know a little bit about what I'm going to talk about. So what we're going to cover, we're going to go over the definitions and characteristics of project management. Go ahead. Handouts. Well, we're recording this whole presentation. It's going to be on YouTube on the SPH channel. So I don't have handouts, sorry, but the presentation, you'll see my face on there as well, so I think it's a little bit better online. So yeah, we'll go through terminology, we'll go through definitions of project management, the credentials at least, they have very specific vernacular, so we'll go through that a little bit. We'll go through a few case studies, outlining some of the applications in public health, and then very quickly, based on your interests, we'll go through some tools that you have at your disposal when trying to manage projects. So background, I have 4 scenarios here, 4 situations. 1, managing the daily tasks of a community clinic. 2, periodically testing the quality of city water. 3, continuous surveillance of population health and disease outbreaks. And 4, creating a public health educational campaign. Please, any of you, tell me which one of these is a project? I didn't hear you. All of them? Anybody else? I'm not saying you're wrong, I just want to see if there are any other opinions. No other opinions, okay. So, before I tell you the answer, let's define a project. A project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. So, the big keywords here are temporary and result. You set a duration and you figure out what you're trying to achieve. So, you have to have a unique purpose. You have to define what you are trying to achieve. You have to have a set start date and a set end date. You have to use resources to achieve your goal. You have to use progressive elaboration. What that means is that you start with a high-level definition and keep expanding on that definition until you achieve your result. That involves certain uncertainty. There are risks involved in whether or not you will be able to achieve your result, and you identify those risks. So, which of these is a project? I didn't hear anybody. Very, very good. This is clearly a project because it involves a very clear goal, and hopefully there's a timeline involved where you want to create this within the next 6 months or within the next 2 weeks or something like that. The rest of these are operations. These are tasks that you perform once you have something in place to perform those tasks with, and they're part of regular operations. So those are not considered projects. So examples of public health projects. A community health center creates an in-house lab to expedite test results and minimize testing costs. So their objective here is a large objective. They want to expedite test results and minimize costs, but they're trying to create a lab to achieve that result, and that itself is a project. A hospital develops a program to reduce readmission rates by identifying and monitoring high-risk patient discharges. So again, this is something that affects regular operations. A hospital obviously has patient discharges. They may have high-risk discharges as part of their regular operations, but they want to be able to develop a system to be able to identify these, and that is a project. A research team develops a smartphone application to assist diabetics and performs usability and field testing. Clearly a project. They have an end goal in mind, and they are developing a tangible product in this case. A health department launches a maternal and child health wellness program. So this is not necessarily a tangible product. It is a service, but it's still the creation of the service is a project. A health research funding agency designs and launches a new grant program. So it may not even be something that you use yourself. This might be something that you're actually giving away, but it's still a project if there's a set scope of work and a set timeline to achieve that work. So this is the holy trinity of project management. Every project manager needs to understand the triad of scope, schedule, and budget. What work are you trying to do, how long you have to do it, and what resources you have at your disposal to do this work. You cannot change one without affecting the others. So this is basically the world of a project manager. What work am I doing? How much time do I have to do it? How much money and what kind of human resources I have to do this work? So what is project management? It is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet project requirements. This was straight from that textbook that I talked about. So it's a very dry definition. But what it means is that the project management, really, it's a set of skills. It's a set of techniques and a set of methodologies that you use to manage your scope, schedule, and budget. The role of a project manager is to keep these things central into every activity, to maintain quality of the work, and to even figure out actually what quality you're trying to achieve. You can do something very quickly but not very high quality, or you can do something that's very high quality but take a lot of time to do it. So figuring out what quality of output you are trying to achieve is very important. Risk, managing risk. So if the work I'm doing depends on government regulation, or it depends on my FAFSA application going through, or it depends on the weather, these are risks that I should identify and plan for them. If we're hit by hurricanes, what are we going to do? If I don't have money in my account, how am I going to pay for my classes? So a project manager needs to identify risks to the project. Communication is critical. There are a lot of people working on your project with you. Not everybody understands what everybody else is doing. So keeping everybody on the same page, from the very top to people who are sponsoring your project to the very bottom people who are actually doing the work, is critical. Stakeholder management, again, so managing expectations, letting people know what we're doing, what we are trying to achieve, translating their needs and desires into requirements and specifications. This is what stakeholder management is all about. Procurement, believe it or not, these practical things are also part of a project manager's life. You have to make sure that the resources that you need are actually available to you. And then human resources. Now this human resources deserves a category of its own simply because people are inherently complicated, and managing people is a very important part of a project manager's job. So now, given all this, all this information, all this background, I'm sure a lot of you, if you think about your own jobs, you think about your own careers, you've touched upon these different things in your own lives. Yes, everybody has. Give me examples. What kind of things have you done before that kind of surround this? Perfect example. See, I'm getting lucky with this crowd because I'm getting to pick on the right people. So actually, what is your name? Kathleen. A lot of what Kathleen has said is going to be relevant to a lot of you. In fact, I don't think there are any jobs here unless you're working like I used to in a former life as a programmer sitting at home. You have to deal with people. You have to deal with communication issues. You have to deal with managing expectations. So these are common to everybody. So a lot of times, the work that you're managing, if you wind up managing anything in the short run, you wind up doing a lot of project management. So case studies. Some of these case studies are situations where project management was used successfully. Some of these there was a lack of project management and the consequences were disastrous. So this first one is a campaign that the New York City Department of Health undertook. It was a communications campaign to to come up with communications material to prevent teenage pregnancy, to encourage that message. So it was an education campaign targeting teenage pregnancy. Their target audience, in this case, their critical stakeholders were teenagers. They spent 2 years on this and about $400,000 of taxpayer money. And they came up with things like this. So this is a poster where a baby is complaining to his mother, saying that I'm twice as likely not to graduate high school because you had me as a teenager. Believe it or not, a lot of teenage parents who the critical stakeholders were offended by this message. Surprise, surprise. You're calling teen moms bad moms. That doesn't work. So several groups were offended. Teen parents felt stigmatized. This reinforced negative stereotypes. And guess what? They wanted to give an educational message, but did not offer any prevention information. There was no education. It was all derision. So clearly, somebody forgot to think about their stakeholders. Somebody forgot to translate the vision into an actual specification. Here's another situation. The CDC had developed this surveillance program called BioSense version 1. So 2.0 is where things get a little better, but version 1 was initiated in 2003. They had very limited involvement from public health stakeholders who were actually supposed to use their tools. And the state organizations in the localities, they found it horrible. They hated it. It was low quality. The data that they collected was not useful at all. It was work with no benefit. Version 2, initiated 7 years later, was much better. They had stakeholder engagement from the very beginning, and they improved internal contract management. That was one of the key findings from the first version. They realized that they weren't managing procurement contracts very well, and that led to a lot of delays and disasters. So they improved that. They improved the procurement side of it, and that helped them out a lot. Healthcare.gov. I think everybody here would have heard about Obamacare, but I wonder how many of you remember the rollout of Obamacare. So the healthcare.gov website very famously had a button saying "Apply now," and there were these memes that started coming out where the pointer finger was a cross set of fingers instead of a click, and it's just because you never knew what would happen when you clicked on "Apply now." So it was the biggest new social program in the U.S. since the 60s. Their initial budget was 90-something million. Their final cost was 300 million almost. And 1% of interested people who actually wanted to apply now, only about 1% of them were actually able to enroll in the first week of operation. So disastrous rollout. The problems, they had unrealistic requirements. They were trying to do too much too soon. There was a lot of technical complexity, and not just in the software, but just in the plans that they were trying to, the healthcare plans that they were trying to roll out. There was fragmented authority. Each state was basically implementing their own system. There was a central system which kind of worked, but each state that had its own implementation, a lot of them were just complete messes. And they had very loose metrics for defining what success criteria were. They did not have time for testing because they had very aggressive schedules. And there was administrative blindness. Not all stakeholders were aware of all the problems that were going on. So they spent a lot of extra money on this to fix these issues, and that's why their budget went from about 100 million to 300 million. So what are these project management tools? Let's start with scope. This first part of any project is planning. You define your requirements using a variety of techniques. You create something called a work breakdown structure, and that is fancy PMP talk for defining a list of activities that need to be performed to achieve the goal. And the second part of scope management, once all the planning activities are completed, is called change management. It's called monitoring for change management. And the biggest thing the bane really of project managers is something called scope creep. And how many of you, tell me, how many of you have been involved in projects where the work begins and then people start looking, the people at the very top who start looking at some of the results and say, hey, I have a good idea. Let's do this also. Let's do this. Let's add the second feature. Does that sound familiar? Do you have a comment? CUNY first. Let's not talk about projects that have gone wrong at CUNY to new CUNY students. Yeah, I could give you examples of my own office, but I'm not going to do that. But that happens, you know. People, they change their minds. They have good ideas. They try to get more work done out of existing teams. And guess what? If you change your scope, it's going to either impact the quality of the work that's produced because you still have the same budget and the same time constraints, or you're going to miss your deadlines, or you're going to go over budget. So it doesn't work. So the process of change management is exactly this. Any changes that have to happen once the project starts, go through a process where you figure out what that change is going to impact. Is it going to affect the quality of your work? Is it going to affect your budget? Is it going to affect the resources that you need? Is it going to affect how much time you need to complete the work? And then based on, I'm not saying every change is bad, so sometimes you might decide, hey, it's worth the extra cost. So at that point you make an informed decision and you adjust your schedules and you adjust your resources accordingly. But if you don't have a change management process in place, it'll be very hard to figure out what kind of impact any change has. Schedule management. So this is a very, very simple timeline for a project. You have step 1 that takes 2 days, step 2 that takes 5 days, step 3 that takes 3 days. So how long does the project take? Quick mental math, 10 days. Very simple. What about this project? Step 1 takes 2 days, step 2 takes 5 days, and when both these are complete, step 3 takes 3 days. So how long should a project take? Pardon me? 10 days. If you're assuming that step 1 and step 2 cannot be done at the same time, but say there are 2 people here who can do step 1 and 3 people who can do step 2 at the same time. Now how long does the project take? 8 days. So it's very important to figure these things out. So you're not just looking at the dependence. So this is the work breakdown structure essentially, right? You're looking at what work needs to be done, what resources you have to do the work, and then you come up with a schedule based on that. You're not looking at just what steps need to be done. You're also looking at what resources you have. You have to plan with all that in mind. But what the critical thing here is to define something called a critical path. Now, the advantage of this is, first, you know it's supposed to be taking you 8 days. If you're going over, there's something wrong. Second, you also know that step 2 and step 3 better be on target because delays in step 2 are going to delay when I can start step 3. But step 1, you have a little bit of wiggle room, right? If I take an extra day or 2 for step 1, that's okay. It's not going to delay me. So defining this path is important because it helps you plan your activities. And if there is a change management thing that has to happen here, if somebody says, hey, you know what, step 1 needs to be expanded a little bit, okay, as long as we have the budget for it, it may not affect our schedule if it can still be done within 5 days. So it's a good planning tool. And a very easy way to implement this is using perhaps even Excel. It's a method called developing Gantt charts. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. The textbook didn't have pronunciations. So a Gantt chart is simply a weekly breakdown of your tasks. Your column A, the first column here, has your work breakdown structure. It is the list of tasks that need to be accomplished. And in blue, you're marking how many days each step takes. And based on the order, you can kind of determine what comes in, what's critical and what has some leeway. So I'm going to go off mic a little bit, but sorry. If you look here, then so these 2 steps are defining scope. When you have some room here to revise your scope, and you can go on, these two tasks overlap. So this task here is called scheduling interviews. This task here is called conducting interviews. And what this is that you have room to revise your scope as long as the interviews haven't started yet. While you're just scheduling them, you can revise your questionnaire. So those kinds of things help you define your critical path. Those kinds of things are important to know ahead of time so that you know how long each person on your team has to complete their assigned tasks. Cost management. Now, a lot of times, and this happens a lot at CUNY as well. I know I wasn't going to talk about CUNY, but this is not a bad thing, so I can talk about CUNY. Our schedule, our costs, our budgets are a lot of times defined way, way, way ahead of project start dates, way ahead of even planning. So the way sometimes we're told to do things is we have X amount of money and we need to get this thing done. You tell us if that's possible, you tell us what's in scope, you tell us what resources you can get. So this cost usually is very, very rigid, and it's okay because it's one less thing to play around with. But there are a few tools here that you can use to manage costs. And I can go into more details about this, net present value and return on investment, but essentially what it means is that for any given piece of work, you assign a resource cost to that work. So if I know that to collect survey data, I need 2 people for 40 hours, I can assign a cost to that process to collect survey data, right? And based on my progress in that task, so if 2 people are supposed to take 40 hours, in the middle of the week, after 20 hours, I expect that half the work should be done. So I should expect that present value is 50% of my cost. And the same way, if I go over budget, then my return on my investment is lower than what it should be. So there are formulae that the PMP guides teach you to calculate how much value you've acquired out of your work and what the return on investment is. Now, this is different from ROI in the financial world, where you're investing money and trying to figure out what kind of return you're going to get on that investment and what kind of profit you're going to make. It's different in the education world because the money you give to your bursar is really not an investment. These are things that you figure out in the beginning. How are you going to collect net present value? How are you going to calculate net present value and calculate return on investment? And you can set up your Excel sheets to do that on a periodic basis. Every week you can fill in how much work has been done, and that'll help you figure out whether or not you're on target or you're going above budget, you're over budget, or if you're under budget or whatever. And during the monitoring stages, you basically look at this data. You look at how much value you've earned already, what kind of cost variance you have. Are you spending too much to earn that value? Are you spending too much money to achieve the amount of work that you wanted to achieve? Or are you spending less? Now, a lot of times people look at these as performance metrics. They're performance metrics, yes, to see how your project is going. It's not an indication of how you're performing as a project manager. No. This doesn't mean that if your cost variance is very high, if you're spending too much money, doesn't mean that you're doing bad project management. What it means is that initial assumptions were incorrect. What it means is that your estimations on how much it'll actually cost is incorrect. So these are useful not just to evaluate your own performance, but to also evaluate your processes for planning. And the more you learn about what it actually costs to do the work, the better you can plan for your next project. So in conclusion, there are a few things to know. The healthcare industry is poised for change because organizations are becoming more and more customer focused. And I think we all realize that there's lots of competition, and becoming lean and mean is the name of the game. This is what disruptive innovation is all about. You do the most amount of output for the least amount of resources, right? So you provide the best value to the customer for the least amount of money. And Project management is one method of becoming leaner, to becoming more organized. The success of new projects is dependent on stakeholder engagement and effective planning and management. So a lot of times, I'm sure you've come across these in the news, you read about a project and from the very beginning you know, hey, this is doomed for failure. And you can tell a lot of times because there's enough engagement, there's poor planning, or you know that people are overestimating their own capabilities or or customer responsiveness or whatever it may be. So, you know, when NASA says that we want to be on Mars in 50 years, yeah, that's not going to happen. We know that from experience. So effective planning and management needs to happen. So good project management can ensure that projects have clear goals and a good plan to meet those goals and a good path for integrating the project into an organization's workflow. And that last line is also critical, right? It's a project. A lot of times you will implement projects to actually create regular operations or to change or improve regular operations for an organization. And if you have a good plan in place, you will plan for that transition from completing projects to actually integrating them into regular operations. So you plan for who will monitor this once we're done. You will plan for, once you have your stakeholders engaged, you can keep these people in the loop from the very beginning, saying, okay, we're at 80%. Do you have your team in place to actually answer phone calls when people call you for information? So all of this can be part of that planning process. I have references here, and I realize now that I should have handouts for at least this. So we'll try and send out an email. I'll try and send something out with the presentation. But any questions? No questions. That's amazing. That's good for me, I guess. But yeah, project management is something that you're not going to learn very formally in your classes here. But it is a tool. It is information that you should seek out. If we don't eventually have more information on project management, it would still be useful for you to seek this out elsewhere. This is not something that's a new field. This is not something that's not written about extensively. If you, at the very least, these are things that you should be thinking about, especially the holy trinity of scope, budget, and schedule. Always, if there's one takeaway from this seminar, it should be that you manage your scope, schedule, and budget. You have a question? Yeah. That's a good question. So the PMP certification has a few requirements. They require that you've done about 4 years of project management work, and then they require you to gain formal education because, as I said, they have specific terminologies, and they teach you some formulae in math, and they give you some methodologies that you use for monitoring your different processes. So they require you to take a course. This course can be, I took this course as part of professional learning. I was working at a university and they had an online course that you could take. But if you look online, I'm sure you'll find resources where to take a course that is PMP approved. And once you have that, there is a guide. It's called the Pmbok guide. It's the PMP Book of Knowledge or something. And you study through that, and then you're ready for your exam. So a lot of it is, a lot of project management is common sense. So these things are not hard to go through. It's just, it's formal just because of its terminology, really. And to expand on that a little bit, the terminology, I keep making fun of it, but it is useful because when you meet other PMPs, other project managers in the field, it gives you a common language to talk about these things. So LinkedIn groups are a great example where you'll find other project managers who are going through different problems. Say they want even help with software. Say, how do you make Gantt charts in Excel? So if you don't know what a Gantt chart is, if you don't know what you're trying to achieve in Excel with a Gantt chart, you won't be able to answer that question. So terminology is not a bad thing. Yeah. All right. So thank you very much. I hope you guys have a good evening. It's a little dark outside, so stay safe.